Now we're back to my slides. That is all visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So we were discussing about the data assimilation, right? And in the last class, we talked about different types of data assimilation. That is by empirical methods, by constant statistical method, and by adaptive statistical method. Okay. And we also talked about different ways of assimilation like sequential assimilation, non-sequential assimilation, then intermittent assimilation or continuous assimilation, right? So different ways of assimilating the data. We discussed all these things in the last two classes. I think we may have to take two more classes to complete this topic, two or three classes, let us see. So today we are going to start discussion on three-dimensional data assimilation. Okay, three-dimensional variational assimilation. Okay, 3D var, also known as 3D var. In variational data assimilation, the analysis is done by minimization of a cost function. Right, minimization of a cost function. Last time you remember that we're trying to say that we try to minimize the errors or differences between the observation and the background field. Right. Here slightly some new terminology is used called cost function. And this cost function again, is like a sum of the terms involving the observation and analysis error. Okay, there is a cost function. The basic goal of the 3D VAR system is to produce an optimal estimate of the true atmospheric state at any desired analysis time through iterative solution of a prescribed cost function. Okay, let me start using the laser pointer. Okay, and the details you can read on this paper, Ide et al., 1997. Okay, most people refer to this paper when they talk about the three-dimensional variational assimilation, 3D VAR. The equations for the cost function here is given by this expression. Jx is the cost function, which is the sum of Jb and Jo, where Jb is the background fill error and the observational error. Okay, is equal to x minus xb transpose b inverse x minus xb plus half of y minus yo transpose of e plus f inverse y minus yo. Well, this is the definition of the cost function, or the cost function is prescribed in this fashion. Okay, where x is the analysis state, whatever state, that means state variable, whether wind fill or temperature fill or moisture fill, we are going to analyze. That is the x fill, represented by x fill, and xb superscript b indicates the background. Okay, here the superscript t indicates the transpose of the matrix. All right, the b, the e, and the f. Okay, they are the background, observation, and representative error covariance matrices respectively. Look at the terminologies used here. Okay, background covariance matrix represented by B, observation covariance matrix represented by E, and representative error covariance matrix error represented by F. In last class, I was trying to explain the representativity. Do you remember the representativity? I tried to explain representativity. Can somebody say what is representativity? Everybody is quiet. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you remember when I explained to you in one of the previous classes for the representativity. Yes or no? Nobody remembers. See, these things are notations or definitions which you should know. Sometimes you may get small objective type questions on this small things, right? Also, by the simple word meaning of representativity is that whatever observations you are collecting from any point. Suppose you collect an observation at Jaipur, okay, surface observation at Jaipur, but that surface observation is collected at one point, right? For example, maybe in the IMD office of Jaipur or at the Jaipur airport, right? But what we say that this observation is representing the whole of Jaipur, right? Representativity, right? And in case of surface is okay, although surface observations can also vary. I mean, there can be gradient in the observation horizontally also. Whatever is the value, say for example, in the observatory may be slightly different at a distance of 10 or 20 kilometers from there, right? But we say that this is representing the whole city, right? Observation taken at Damdam airport in Kolkata, okay, is considered, or Alipur observatory of Calcutta, okay, is supposed to be representing whole of Kolkata, which may not be exact, which may not be true, but still we consider that observation to be representing the whole of the city. So that error because of that is generally representativity error. And that's about the surface. I also told you last time that when you are collecting the reduced sound observation, the radio sound is launched at one location. Say, radio sound is launched at Chennai, okay, airport, Minambakam airport, right? Is that the name of the airport?
Yes, sir, Minambak.
Yes, Minambakam, yeah. Suppose the radio sound is launched at the airport of Chennai, but after half an hour or 45 minutes, when it reaches to 200 millibar or 100 millibar, it would have drifted away 100 kilometer or 200 kilometer away from Chennai, depending upon the wind direction. But still, we say that this is the radiation profile, atmospheric profile of Chennai, right? So we assume that the radiation observation is representing the whole of the area around Chennai, which may be about a circle of 100 kilometer radius or 200 kilometer radius, depending on how fast was the wind, right? How strong was the wind, right? So error because of that, we can say that this is representativity error. Okay. So the representativity error is an estimate of inaccuracies introduced in the observation operator H. Now this is another terminology used here. Observation operator H. Okay. Now in the data assimilation, or especially in the variational data assimilation, 3D bar, 4D bar, we use this terminology very frequently. Observation operator. Now this is an operator used to transform the gridded analysis X to observation space Y. That means you are representing Y is equal to Hx. Okay, where Y is your observation, X is your variable, H is the operator, observation operator. Okay, another important terminology. Sometimes you may have to write short note on observation operator. Okay, and it's very important thing, observation operator. Okay, you're trying to relate between the observation and the analysis. See, I mean, sometimes when you assimilate the data, say for example, wind fill or temperature fill or the specific humidity fill, you directly have a prognostic equation for those fields, right? And so it is no problem. You can easily assimilate. But many times, or sometimes you also try to assimilate such observations who do not have the prognostic equations, right? I had mentioned this earlier also, if you remember. You assimilate the observation, try to assimilate the observation which do not have a prognostic equation. Can you cite an example? Any one of you? We try to assimilate what is that?
Rainfall.
Rainfall. Okay, fine. Rainfall does not have a prognostic equation. Any other variable? Besides rainfall, any other variables? Can anybody say? No? You forgot. I remember that I had explained this. Say, for example, the observation from radar. What does the radar measure? Typically, what does a Doppler radar measures? I mean, the most important thing, it measures so many things. What is the most important thing that we utilize? Tell somebody should tell. So everybody is quiet. Am I audible? Clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the most important observation from a Doppler radar? Nobody is saying.
Change in phase.
What is that?
Change in phase.
Change in phase. Well,
Reflected
okay.
pulse.
What is that?
Such change in phase of the reflected pulse. If the send the pulse.
Okay, fine. That is fine, but that is you're going more down into deep into the physics part, and because of that, we try to compute the Doppler velocity, of course.
Okay, yeah, speed of the wind basically.
So one is the Doppler velocity, okay, and other is the most important thing in the radar. The most important thing in radar that you measure is basically the reflectivity. See, radar sends a pulse towards an object, and that pulse is reflected back to the receiver, and it is measured. So that is the reflectivity, right? Now, when the radar sends a pulse towards a cloud, and clouds have so many hydrometeors, different types of hydrometeors, and those pulses get back after reflection from that hydrometeors back to the receiver. So the receiver measures the reflectivity, right? The two most important things that is measured by Doppler radar is the reflectivity and the Doppler velocity, right? That you should know. I think you have visited the Doppler radars, some of you, isn't it? Yes or no? No? Everybody is quiet. Are you all okay today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, based upon that, only you can classify that with, again, several retrieval algorithm, that whether the cloud has a liquid water or frozen quantities like ice or other parameters, right? Reflectivity, most important thing. And then also you can determine how intense is the cloud, depending upon how intense is the echo, because you are measuring the echo, right? So the echo is very intense, that means it is rich. The cloud is very rich of hydrometeors, right? If the echo is very feeble, that means it doesn't have strong hydrometeors, maybe just slight liquid water, little bit of liquid water, right? So reflectivity, Doppler velocity. What about satellite? What does satellite measure? Tell me. What is measured by satellite? Say somebody should say.
Radiances.
Radiance, exactly.
So radian.
Yes, radiance. The satellites measure the radiance. Now, all those things are so important observation. Today's andrology has progressed so much because of these satellite observations, right? But satellite measures only the radiance, right? Radar measures the reflectivity and the Doppler velocity. But none of these are the prognostic equations of the model. If you recall the governing equations of the model, do you recall any of the equations which contain rate of change of reflectivity with time, or rate of change of Doppler velocity with time, or rate of change of radiance with time. Do you recall any equations in the governing equations of the atmosphere? Any such equation? Yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Right? But yet, these are very important observations which are assimilated in all the numerical weather prediction models. So how do we do that? We use an observation operator to map the observations, right? To map the observations which are unconventional observations like reflectivity, Doppler velocity, radiance from satellite, right? And relate them to the model variables. Okay, we map the observations using a observation operator and relate them to the model variables x. This is the observation y. This is the model variable x, and h is the observation operator. So is that clear? What is the observation operator? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in 3D VAR, a single data assimilation time window centered on the time of the analysis is operated. That is a 3-hour or 6-hour window for an NWP system, making a new analysis for every 6 hours or 3-hour window for a 3-hour cycling system. Right? I had explained to you earlier the window, time window. You remember that? Time window, 6-hour time window or 3-hour time window. Do you remember? In earlier classes, I had explained to you. I want to be interactive with you. Everybody is silent. Didn't I explain earlier what is the time window? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is the time window? Can somebody say what is time window?
So if we are running the modeling for the first time, then it is time window is required. But if we are doing it for the second or third time, but if you're not doing it for the first time, then we need this.
No, you are confused with the cold start and cycling. What you are saying is the cold start and cycling.
Yes, sir.
It is. That is not the time window. And time window I explained to you so much in last class. Anybody else? Time window. And everything is written in this now.
Action
Tell me. Somebody is trying to say. Who is trying to say?
Sir,
Yeah. Who
Hari.
is that? I'm not able to hear you. Hello? Maybe you have a problem in the audio. Somebody is trying to say something. Bolo. What is the time window? Everybody is silent. And here it is clearly written. All the hints are given here itself. A 3-hour or 6-hour window. No. So I think today probably
Sir,
tell me.
sir, if you're making a prediction for some time, example 00 UTC, then we take the observations like previous observations for some time ago. So that is, it's usually 3 or 6.
That's right. Yeah. Actually, when you are doing the analysis, say at 00 UTC, then because all observations of 00 UTC will not reach at 00 UTC itself. No, it will take time. And also, the observations collected at 00 UTC may not be too much. You need to have sufficient observations to have a good analysis or good initial conditions. So generally, you set up a time window plus minus 3 hours, let us say. That means all the observations which were taken at 21 GMT during night time. What is 21 GMT equivalent to our Indian Standard Time?
So 2:30.
21.
2:30 in the morning.
Yes, 2:30 in the morning. And 03 UTC in the Indian Standard Time?
8:30.
8:30 in the morning, correct. So if we set it time window plus minus 3 hours, that means we are considering all the observations which were collected between 2:30 in the early morning till 8:30 in the morning, right? That is the time window, and which can be set according to, I mean, your NWP center depending on your data receiving capability and many other things. Like in a convective data assimilation, time window is set to be very short, like 1 hour or 3 hours only. But in a large scale data assimilation or a global data assimilation, it is set longer, 6 hours, right? So that is the time window. All of you should remember. Okay. Again, back to observation operator. Okay. The observation operator H maps from model state X to observation space, as already mentioned. Right? H is an operator performing just an interpolation in the model field to the location of the observation. Right? In addition, it will perform a number of other transformations. They are related to the particular properties of the NWP model and the data assimilation system. Again, Y is equal to HX, right? Trying to relate or map the observation in the space of the model variables. The 3D VAR system consists of 4 components. Okay, now this is a classical paper of 3D VAR by Barker et al. Del Barker, 2003, 2004, 2005. No, he did a lot of work on 3D VAR. So you can read these papers to have a much more deeper idea of knowledge of 3D VAR. Now it consists of 4 components. Okay, number 1, the background pre-processing. Number 2, observation pre-processing and quality control. Number 3, variational analysis. Number 4, updation of the boundary conditions. So they are the 4 major components of the 3D VAR system. Okay, I'll try to finish all these things today itself because tomorrow I want to discuss the 4D VAR. Now, starting with the background pre-processing. Right? Background pre-processing, as the name implies, that means you are trying to pre-process your data. Analysis for a particular initial condition can be done either in cold start mode or in cycling mode, that you already know now. Okay. In cold start mode, reformatting and interpolation of forecast fields from a variety of sources to the target model domain is done. Okay, you already know that. Okay. Because you don't have the previous thing, so you just try to interpolate either the observation or the forecast fields from the nearby points to your grid point. That is the cold start mode. In cycling mode, background processing is not required as the background field XB is supplied by a short range forecast from the model over the same domain. Okay. Over the same domain, the background field is supplied by the previous 6-hour forecast or 3-hour forecast, depending on this assimilation cycle time window. Okay. Before proceeding to the variational analysis, a background error field of the model is required. Background error field, that means what is the error in your background or what is the error in your first guess. Some information you need to proceed further. Okay, we shall discuss all about that in today's class. The background error fields are generally calculated based on the NMC. You know what is NMC method? NMC stands for? NMC stands for? You know NCEP? What does NCEP stand for? NCEP? NCEP. You know NCEP, right?
National for Environmental Protection.
Correct, yeah. NCEP, National Center for Environmental Protection. That is a part of which country?
USA.
USA, part of US Weather Service. Okay. United States Weather Bureau. And that itself is a part of NOAA. Right? You know NOAA, isn't it?
Yes.
What is the full form of NOAA?
National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration.
Right, yeah. So actually, this NMC was NCEP. NCEP was earlier called NMC. Today's NCEP was called NMC earlier. It was renamed as NCEP sometime in 90s. So earlier it was NMC, National Meteorological Center, NMC, National Meteorological Center. Okay, and this Paris and Dover, they were scientists there at NMC, which is now called NCEP. So this background error is computed generally by all the people. This is a classical paper, Paris and Dover, as summarized below. Okay, So this is a schematic representation of the 3D bar in a nutshell. It explains everything. Okay, like we have got three main components of the 3D bar here. One is the model. Okay, whether it is a MM5 model, that is the old version of WRF, or WRF, the current version, standard initialization. That is the model. Because without a model, you cannot get the first case field. The second thing is the second part is the observation processor, pre-processor. How do you process the observation? All these things will, like clock quality control, decoding, etc. of observation, everything takes place here. Observation pre-processing. And third is the background error calculation. I just mentioned about the background error calculation. Okay. So when you are doing a cold start from the existing climatology or existing some interpolation, you just get the first case value XB or background fill at your model grid points. Okay. When you are doing a cycling or real time, then of course you have got the observation operator YO. They are all the observations. Okay. And you also have background error B of the first case fill. So you are trying to mix these things. You are mixing or merging the background error in the background analysis, that is your first case, plus the current observation represented by YO into your assimilation system, which you just saw an expression to minimize the cost function. Cost function is what we explained earlier. You're trying to minimize the cost function, which is sum of JB plus JO, the error because of the background fill and error because of the observations. So this is a 3D bar system which does all these things. And then after doing all that, you get a new analysis. That means after merging all the new observations into the background fill, you get a new analysis, XA. So using this new analysis, now you update your boundary conditions because the analysis you did at the inner points and the boundary values are still your first case. So there you just try to update the boundary conditions using the new analysis fill. And then after that, you run the model and get a new 6-hour forecast. Okay. So you got a new 6-hour forecast from the model. And then that became again a new background fill for the next cycle. Again, in the new background next cycle, you got new observations. Okay. And the background fills, of course, now will remain the same because there is just an error in the background fill. Error in the background fill of the model forecast. Actually, background error is actually the error in the model forecast. Okay, so again you mix up them together and get a new analysis, update the boundary condition, run the model for the next 6 hours. Again, get the new background fill for the next subsequent cycle, and so on. So this cycle repeats for 4 times at least. Okay, in a day, and you get a better initial condition after 4 cycles at least in the global data assimilation system, or if it is a convective data assimilation system, then it can be 8 cycles, like every 3 hours yearly, and so on. So with that, once you have got a good initial condition, then you launch the model forecast for next 7 days or 10 days. Okay, that's how the entire modeling system works. Right. So now let's see how the background error fill is computed. And as I said, the background error fill is because of the error in the model. Okay, the 6-hour forecast which we use as a first case, that 6-hour forecast may not be correct because there will be error in the model. So what is the error in the model that we try to compute and store them as a matrix? Okay, and therefore obviously this background error will differ from model to model. Okay, will differ as soon as you change the model. Like if you change the resolution of the model, your background error will change. If you change the combination of your physics parameterization, then also background errors will change, right? Because your forecast is highly dependent upon the model configuration. Right? What is the resolution? What are the combinations of the physical processes, etc., etc. So for every new configuration of the model, one has to compute the background error. And generally in operational centers like IMD or NCM model, no, everyday model does not change, right? Model change only maybe once in a 6 months or once in a year, right? When your new version is updated. Now, everywhere, like whether it is a ECMWF or NSAP or NCMRWF, everywhere. Only when lots of improvements have been done, then the model is changed. So at that time, you have to once again compute your background error. Otherwise, the background error will remain the same till your model version has not changed. All right. So background error covariance are vital input to any variational analysis scheme. They influence the analysis fit to observations and also completely define the analysis response away from the observations. Okay. Background error covariance statistics are used in 3D bar cost function to weight the background field, because you are just trying to get an estimate of the error of your first guess. The assimilation system filters those background structures that have high error relative to the more accurately known background features and observations. Okay, this is one of the properties of the assimilation system. In reality, error in the background field is synoptically dependent. Right? So what does it mean? I just said that when your model changes, when you change the version of your model with new resolution or new physics, then you calculate the background error. But it says that it can also change according to, it is also synoptically dependent, right? Synoptically dependent. So this means that your background error may be different in summer season and may be different in winter season, right? It means that because it is synoptically dependent, so the synoptic systems in summer are different from the synoptic systems of the winter. So in other words, you need to calculate background errors not only when your model changes, but also for different synoptic situations. And obviously, there can be so many situations of synoptic situations, and you cannot afford to calculate the background error for every synoptic situation. So generally, we have to compromise, right? Either you compute the background error, one set of background error for summer, another set of background error for the winter season. Or if you want to be further accurate, then maybe you can compute the monthly background error, like assuming that every month this pattern of the atmosphere, atmospheric systems can change. Like January it will be some system, February it will be slightly different, March it will be different, and so January to December, 12 months, you have 12 set of background errors. To be more accurate, if somebody wants to become very precise, right? Because the idea is to get as accurate as possible our forecast, right? And for that, we need to have as accurate as possible the initial condition, right? And to get that, we are trying to be as much accurate as possible by calculating the background error every month, right? At NCMRW, background errors were calculated. That was the way we did it long ago. Calculated over the Indian region based on the operational configuration of MM5. At the time, we were using MM5, and the F1 at NCMRW using LMC method. Okay, Paris and Delver. In this method, background errors are approximated by average forecast differences, that is month-long series of 24 minus 12-hour forecast, validated at the same time. Thus, the background error covariance matrix is approximated as. Is everybody listening carefully? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I have to check whether I'm disconnected or not. Okay, so this is the definition of the background error. B is approximately equal to the transpose matrix of the difference in the forecast between 12 and 24 hours, and the same matrix T12 minus T24. So what does this mean? This 12 and 24 are the forecast hours valid at the same time. Like suppose if you are computing the background error starting, say, at 00 UTC, let us say, today, okay. Then what you will do is, you will take the forecast of previous 24 hours, starting from yesterday's 00 GMT, the forecast valid at today's 00 GMT. That is how many hours? How many hours? From yesterday's 00 GMT to today's 00 GMT, how many hours?
24 hours.
24 hours, right. So 24-hour forecast, then another set of forecasts starting from yesterday's 12 UTC, valid for 00 UTC of today. How many hours? From 12 UTC of yesterday till 00 UTC of today.
12 hours.
12 hours, right? Right. So one set of forecast is for 12 hours, Other set of forecast is for 24 hours. Both the forecasts are valid at the same time at 00 GMT of today. So ideally, they should be identical, shouldn't they? They should be identical, isn't it? Yes or no? Tell me. Yes,
Yes.
or no? They are valid at the same time for today, 00 GMT. But one forecast is 24-hour forecast starting from yesterday's 00 GMT, and another forecast is from yesterday's 12 UTC, that is 12-hour forecast. So if your model was perfect, both the forecasts would have been exactly the same. Isn't it? Yes or no? They would be
Yes.
same if your model is perfect. Is that right or wrong? Nobody is saying anything. If the model was perfect, then whether you run the model for 12 hours or for 24 hours, forecast value at the same time, will it not be the same? Why everybody is quiet?
No, sir. I don't
Huh?
think it won't be the same.
Yeah, it won't be same, and that's what is the real thing. It will not be same because the model is not perfect, isn't it? It won't be same because the model is not perfect. Initial conditions are different also, right? But ideally, forecast valid at the same time should be same, isn't it? Because you are using the same model doing a 12-hour forecast, and same model doing a 24-hour forecast, valid for the same time. If your model was perfect, then the forecast would be the same, identical. But because your model is not perfect, so the forecast will not be same. What do you say? Am I right or wrong? Confused? Getting confused? Tell me. Because model is not perfect, so forecast will be different. And that is what you want to measure. Different means how much different. And that difference is the error. That difference is your error in the model forecast. Right? The difference between the forecast valid at 00 GMT of today, the 24-hour forecast, and the forecast valid at the same time, which is 12-hour forecast, that difference is your model error, forecast error. And that is what, because you are using this forecast as a background for the next simulation cycle, first guess. Whether it is, of course, I'm just telling you the 24-hour minus 12-hour, but you are using the 6-hour forecast. But in any case, the difference will be there also in the 6-hour forecast, right? The error will be there in the 6-hour forecast. So you are assuming that this 6-hour forecast error is same. Error is, although error is growing, right? Error is growing with time. 6-hour forecast error will be less than the 12-hour forecast error, which will be less than the 24-hour forecast error, which will be less than the 72-hour forecast error, and so on. But you are assuming that for a shorter time scale, the error is not much different between 6-hour forecast and the 12-hour forecast. Okay, so this is you are considering as a background error covariance matrix. Background errors will vary for each domain, and so should ideally be tuned for each domain. As I said, when you change your model, should change your background error statistics. After generating the desired forecast differences, average forecast error statistics, and that you do for at least for 1 month. This difference in the 24-hour and 12-hour forecast, which you are calculating, this you should calculate for at least 1 month. That means you should make a 30 forecast. You should make 30 forecasts of 12 hours and 30 forecasts of 24 hours, right? So you have made a 1 month forecast. So that you have a sufficient sample size. Okay. So computation is mainly done through following 3 studies: generating desired forecast differences, average for forecast error statistics. Okay. So after computing the error for the entire 1 month of the differences between 24 and 12-hour forecast, that gives a representativity representing the forecast error or the background error field. Okay. And this is mainly done through the following 3 stages. Number 1, computation of the eigenvectors and eigenvalues of vertical background errors. Number 2, calculation of the balanced regression statistics used to filter balance mass increments. Okay. And number 3, calculation of recursive filter characteristics, length scales. Okay. These are the 3 steps or stages through which the background error is calculated. They are all statistics. Okay. Eigenvalues, eigenvectors, filter, recursive filter, and so on. Okay. Using the MM5 version 3.4, the 12 and 24 forecast outputs, B background error was computed by NMC method, our Indian region. For this reason, there was a long time ago when we did it using the MM5 model. So we tried to use it for Indian region. Calculate it for Indian region. Now, many people, when they don't have the background error for their region, because what these WRF people have done is they have calculated the background error for the whole globe. Okay. The WRF community, when you are downloading the WRF model from the WRF's website and learning the data assimilation, doing the data assimilation, you will find that already the background error is available for you. Why? Because the WRF people have computed the background error for the whole globe. Okay. But you can use that, of course, for learning purpose. But to be more accurate, you need to calculate the background error for your own domain. Like you are configuring the domain, suppose only over South India, only over the North India, only over all over India. So depending upon your domain of interest, you can calculate the background error for yourself, for your own purpose, rather than using the background error supplied by the WRF community people in their website, which they have done it for the whole globe. Okay, and generally once you compute the background error for the first domain, we don't have to compute for all the domains, of course, because it automatically exchanges the value when you are nesting. Domain means domain 1, domain 2, like you are nesting the domains. I'll talk about the WRF model. I'm just thinking to take 3-4 lectures about the WRF model as part of your practical class. Okay, later on. So when you're nesting the domains, you need to just do the background error calculation only for the outermost domain, because innermost domain will automatically get the values from the outermost domain. Okay. So I'll take these classes later on after theory is over. Generally, before making an attempt to run any assimilation cycle, it is essential to test the background error statistics. Okay, I'm going so slow to make you understand. You have a class at 3:30, is it? All of you? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I want to finish before 3:30, although I think I have some still many slides left. So with this aim, the whole background error will be statistics was subject to a pseudo single observation test. Okay, once you have calculated the background error, then that is one of your very important part of your analysis, because your entire observation, new observation that you have collected or you have received, that you are going to analyze at the model domain, based upon the first guess, which has an error, BE, background error. So you would like to see that how sensitive is your background error, or how sensitive is your observation to the background error, right? That is important to know. That once you have calculated the background error, then you should know that how sensitive is your observation to the background error. And for that, you can do a numerical test called pseudo single observation test. Pseudo single observation test, PSOT. Say, for example, you have installed a new instrument. Suppose if you have installed a new automatic weather station in your house. At your home, suppose you install a new automatic weather station and you want to include the observation from your new automatic weather station into the model that you are running in your area, right? How sensitive is your observation, which you have collected from your courtyard? How sensitive is that observation? Obviously, you will be curious to know that whether my observation has got any impact, is making any impact on the analysis or not. And for that, you can do a pseudo single observation test. You are just So what you do is, you just insert a pseudo observation in your domain at any point, and then calculate or see its impact on the analysis field. Okay. I mean, these are all the different numerical experiments, numerical sensitivity tests that one can do when one is trying to learn the data assimilation. And also, of course, in the normal operational forecasting, also one should try to know this. Once new observations are collected, he should try to calculate this single pseudo observation test, whether he is new observation. Tomorrow, we set up a observatory in the campus, in the Siraj campus, in our Central University of Rajasthan, and would like to assimilate this observation in the model. Then we would like to know that what is the sensitivity, is the observation collected in the Siraj campus is making any impact in the model analysis or not, right? One will be curious to know. So that is a single pseudo observation test. So it involves the assimilation of a pseudo or a bogus observation. I mean, of course, when you are inserting the real observation from the arithmetic weather station, that is a real observation. But even without having that real observation, you can just do the test using a pseudo observation. Just insert a pseudo observation, right, or a bogus observation of one of the model variables like u, v, t, p, q, etc. at any single point in the domain and see its impact. The response of B is mainly observed in two ways. Firstly, the fit of the any observation O with analysis A or the background B is dictated by the background covariance variance sigma B square and the observation error variance sigma O square. Okay, these are important things. Background error variance and the observation error variance. Okay, so this B will respond accordingly to error variance in your background field and the error variance in the observation field according to this relation: observation minus analysis. See, the observation minus the analysis. Okay, new observation minus the new analysis is equal to the ratio of the observational error variance divided by sum of the observational and background variance multiplied by O minus B. This O is observation minus background field. And similarly, A minus B, the analysis minus the background, is equal to the ratio of the background error variance divided by sum of the background and observational error variance times O minus B, that is observation minus background. Am I audible to all of you? Or I'm disconnected? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So we can.
Yes, sir, we can.
So I am still connected. Okay, good. Secondly, in addition to setting the relative weight of observation and background in the analysis in this equation, the B also defines background error. That is, B also defines the response of the analysis away from the observation location for other variables due to multivariate characteristics of the R. This is very important, especially in the data sparse region. See, this is a very important point. Like, suppose if you have collected a new observation, we have set up the observatory in our university campus. Now, we would like to not only know that how is the impact of this observation in the model analysis, but we would also like to know how far this observation is going to influence in the model analysis. Do you understand what I'm saying? How far away my new observation is going to influence the analysis. That also is very important. And it will influence a new observation. Suppose in Chennai, IG car. Have you heard of IG car?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Kalapakkam, right? Kalapakkam.
Kalpakam, yes.
Kalapakkam, yeah. Kalapakkam, suppose people, they are the bark people. They are not the meteorological people, right? BARC, B-A-R-C. DAE people, Department of Atomic Energy, right? But they have a group which works on meteorological aspects, right? They have a group which works on meteorology. And so they have a set up observatory in their IGCAR campus. When they set up the observatory, they wanted to know that what is the impact of their observation, or how far away their observation is influencing. Is their observation collected in the Kalpakkam campus is also influencing the whole of Chennai region, or only up to some 10 kilometer, 20 kilometer? It's important for them to know, because they run the model to know in case of any mishap or disaster like Fukushima. Have you heard of Fukushima accident? Yes or no? Fukushima.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, Fukushima now of Japan, Chernobyl of Soviet Union, right? Those are the very well-known historical accidents, environmental accidents, or Bhopal gas tragedy long ago. Still, I think for a long time the settlement was not made. So it's important for them to know in case of any mishap or accident, how far will the radiation influence the environment, the air, and the people, right? So they have to have the observation of the meteorological parameters, right? So one is interested to know not only that this new observation, whether it will influence my analysis, number one, and number two, how far away from my point of observation this new observation is going to impact the analysis. So these are the things which the simulation people have to worry, the analysis people have to worry, right? So this is a separate field in itself. Simulation is a very vast and separate field. Okay, so this is very important. I want to quickly finish. I think hardly any time left today. I have exceeded my time. So what should I do? Shall I stop immediately? Because your madam will be waiting for you, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have to stop because you will be late in your class. So then I'll continue tomorrow if you want, or today if you want 4:30, that's okay for me. Tell me quickly.
No, sir, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So not today. Okay, fine. So we'll continue tomorrow. All right. So let me stop the presentation. Okay. Sorry. Stop presentation and also stop the recording. So Adira, you have got the today's recording.